Welcome to Flowcast, the podcast of the project Flow. Flow is a river story, revealed in movement and sound. Past, present, and future flow together as artists transform research and satellite images into music. The river story reimagined in sound. Welcome to Flowcast, Andy. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Andy Billington. I'm based in the Midlands in the UK. I'm not a musician. I was actually educated in fine art. So did a degree in fine art and studied at art college for 5 years. And then I've continued that fine art practice in the background whilst having a job that's very different from the art world. And sort of slowly through the last few years, music's played a bigger part inside of what I do and how I like to express myself, really. I got a guitar when I was about 15. That set me well for a few years, played in different bands and things. I got sort of bored around 2010 with guitars. And at the time, I think there was a quiet revolution in the UK with dubstep and electronic music. That really rewired my thoughts on synthesizers, and it's a gateway drug to modular synths, isn't it, really? And ended up then buying some rather esoteric synths, predominantly banana synths, learning more about Peter Blasser, who's the designer, acquiring as much stuff as I can possibly afford. Very dangerous.
It is. Gear acquisition syndrome is a real threat.
It is. I'm currently building a studio at the side of my house.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's fascinating and challenged me to think about sound differently.
You chose to work on segment number 2. Actually, you didn't choose it. You were excited.
It was a wild card.
You went for the wild card. Were you happy with what you ended up with?
Section number 2 was a bit of a gift, really, because one, you did the rest of the group did the decision making for me. And 2, right in the centre of the recording is this tractor that goes stereo pans across the whole sort of audio scene. And I found that really fascinating, and that really helped sculpt and direct me when I was trying to work out how I would approach something that on the face of it seemed a pretty sanguine, gentle river sound that's got the influence of human beings running right the way through the centre of it. So to be in a position where I had to challenge myself not only with what I'd been given, but then to try and turn that piece of audio from a section of the river which is quieter into something that would be anchored around this dichotomy of nature and humans and the interaction of the river with the people that live by it, but also the people that use the river, manifested itself in 8 statements, which I scribbled down on paper and put above my desk.
You started from those 8 sentences,
yes,
which will be on the Substack article, and you did split the field recording into, 16 different parts?
That's correct. Yeah, I use a Roland SP404 sampler. I probably use it incorrectly, but essentially it broke the sample down into usable chunks. And by playing those on top of each other, I created actually 16 versions of the final composition. I then broke those down again and resampled and moved them around. So almost a collage, a very painterly effect to getting to a final destination. And then I thought it was quite interesting as well to start to play with some of the bit rate inside of this and using some white noise audio generators and other esoteric synth sounds. It allowed me then to almost start to emulate the sounds of the water. And then very slowly I put it back together, and the final composition was played live. So 16 samples played across the top of each other, with then that human motoric voice of Google putting those sentences, those statements across it. So you've got that weird then relationship between bitrate, river, human intervention, the dichotomy of human and river, the emotions that we put onto these spaces and places, as well as how we react with them.
So this plays very well into one of the main topics of this project, which is an analysis of the relationship between natural and artificial, between human and nature. And you do so by having several elements, organic and artificial, interacting with each other in your music. Is this your way of telling us where you think this relationship is going?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've got that AI element now of how much water data centers need, how historical agricultural land is being repurposed, how, we're becoming fantastic at building these very vanilla houses for rack-mounted servers that require water to cool them. non-spaces, industrial estate, desert vistas have been taken up by these sheds and shacks, which makes you wonder whether in the future some of the banks of where there's glacial remnants across Europe will be segmented into larger data centres because of their proximity to running water. It's like a rather perverse version of the Industrial Revolution and the milling wheel, and you're using it to fuel big tech.
Quite a grim perspective, not entirely unlikely though. We are here also to talk about renaturalization projects and their ethical implication. What does it mean to renaturalize a river for you? If the way forward is a dystopic one, should we look at the past, and how far back should we go?
It's a really interesting angle about how far back you go. Do you take it back to glacial times and just remove everything? What I think is really interesting is sort of the audacity of humans to think that they can control these elements, and that what they have is the ultimate final route of the river or the control of the river, because it all goes south very quickly. The moment you put more rain into it, the moment you have erosion, the moment that you change your industry from one thing to heavy industry, the moment that the requirements of water for the habitation around it is drawn down on. So it's all rather transient. It depends on what time frame you're looking at when you sort of measure this. What I found particularly interesting was that actual dichotomy about how humans are using that space, how humans are interacting. If the river's clean, people are happy. If the river's dirty and full of detritus, then there's going to be uproar. So that idea of the river reflecting our mood, our emotional responses to the river, I found all of those interactions quite interesting. I tried to do some responses using damaged Polaroid film that ended up looking like the satellite photographs that were part of the project, to try and just move that art practice on to see whether that influenced anything. But it came back to the point that the aerial photographs run on a show reel. And that show reel is very short, and it started to sort of link in with some of the sounds in the track that almost sound like Super 8 cameras whirring and then resetting. I'm not quite sure how the whole thing links together, but it's definitely created a sort of visual response to, not necessarily a visual score, I didn't write it out, but by using, again, risk, hazard, chance in creating a piece of artwork, and actually using water to damage the Polaroids. I got to a point where we had there's a set of about 8 images now, which are essentially Polaroids split in half and moved around with chemicals as well as water.
The images of these Polaroids will be available on our Substack page, specifically in Andy's episodes, and I invite everyone to go and check them out because they're really interesting. I've interviewed artists from all around the world, but all have in common a sense of connection with rivers. The ethical and ecological questions around our projects are triggering strong emotional response. Did you feel the same way?
That idea of the river being the backdrop, I think, to people's lives, again, is a really interesting optic. Try navigating a river when all the bridges have gone. And these things are wild and unpredictable as well. So the ecological approach to measurement and study, the slow change, the satellite photography, the reinterpretations through sound, the more scientific approach to the health of a river stand, I think, shoulder to shoulder with how people have interacted with that particular stretch of the river, how they live, how they make their lives, agriculturally or otherwise. And then ultimately, you're getting to some bigger, deeper questions around the fact that, all water is connected, and we have a finite amount of water on a planet, and maybe we have the same experiences when we walk down small canals in another part of the world, or when we stare out across the Hudson looking at this stuff. There's a humanistic approach to how we interact with water, how it features in our cities, how it features in our lives, how it ultimately will assist us with AI and the evolution of AI and quantum computing. I suspect in the next few years it becomes again an incredibly powerful commodity.
Now let's listen to Andy's composition titled "The River Reflects Our Lives."
The river reflects